Greetings, friends, and welcome back to the Musings from the Mount podcast, where we explore the intersection of spirituality, psychology, and global consciousness. I'm your host, Joseph Carenza. In today's episode, Michael Lindfield returns, and we unpack the timeless rules for the road for spiritual pilgrims. We'll journey through ancient wisdom, discovering how these ageless teachings apply to our daily lives. From walking in the light of day to understanding the cup of karma, we'll explore practical and esoteric insights that can guide us on our spiritual path. So join us as we decode these spiritual guidelines and learn how to become listening pilgrims in today's world. And if you enjoy this podcast, please consider going to meditationmount.org and donating. Your donation helps us to bring you this podcast as well as all the other programs Mount produces, both today and in the future. We are incredibly grateful and honored by your support. All right, fellow pilgrims, back to the podcast. As we take this journey, this sort of spiritual path, we call it a spiritual approach. And we described this in other podcasts, there's some rules from the road. There's some guidelines. There's there's very much a path for the disciple. And we've talked about that a little bit. But something we've discussed too is how do we bring this into alignment with the world today? So, this stuff was all written for the most part, when the world looked very differently. And if you're on this path, if you're a disciple, if you're called, or if you're researching this, how do you make it real for today? And what are these rules for the road? Like, how do you approach this? Especially since there's not necessarily the big lights that there were even 50 years ago. There was people all over the planet teaching this material, and there was people giving talks, going on the lecture circuit, writing books, and while there's a million podcasts about it, but there's no kind of distinct voice, and so it's easy to get lost in this path.
It is. You're right. We had Krishnamurtis, we had all the other luminaries.
Yeah.
I believe what we're doing now is learning to embody the teaching. Mm-hmm. So it's a demonstration. It's a manifestation of the teaching. Right. It isn't just a representation of the teaching through words. Mm-hmm. But I want to go back to this notion of the ageless wisdom. It's called ageless wisdom, not just ancient wisdom. Because when we sometimes think of ancient, we think of old and past. And I know that many people say, well, that was written, 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. And I think some of this goes back even further to Atlantis. Mm-hmm. These are the steps needed to be taken on the path to enlightenment. That journey, at its deepest level, has never changed. On the outside, the landscape looks very different. The instruments that we use along the way are very different. We are in a digital world now. So when I think of the ageless wisdom, I remember having this conversation with people in a community I used to live with who were saying, well, that was, the founders believed in that, but now we're here now. That was old. Now something's different. I'm saying, no, the roots are eternal. Each season produces a different crop of fruit or flowering that is needed in the world. So you don't discard the roots. You learn to grow and express what's needed at this time to meet the needs of this time, in keeping with the original guidelines. You don't deviate from those. That's why these ageless wisdom teachings are timeless. The question is, when you read them, the language seems so archaic, you think, well, how is that relevant now? And I feel that part of our work at Meditation Mount is to bring them alive so that people can live them and they make sense. And these rules are not thou shalt. You've got to do this. This is not somebody telling us what to do. These are steps of guidance And guidance is a revelation, like somebody saying, look, you're just about to go into this part of the territory, and they show you a map. You're going into the mountains, or you're going into this marshy area. Look out for quicksand, look out for quagmire, look out for landslides. Look, it's like, and here's how you walk through sure-footed.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how you keep aligned, and this is what can pull you off the path, and you find yourself in the bottom of a ravine.
Mm-hmm.
Those guidelines still hold true. So what I'd like to do today is to go and revisit some of the guidelines that were given thousands of years ago that I find are still so relevant.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And I think that's an excellent point when you call it the ageless wisdom. I mean, I hadn't really put that together, because we're used to studying these ancient traditions, but it is ageless, and sometimes it's just the wording that maybe puts people off. But I mean, it's like a good folk tale or a good, axiom, that holds true regardless of the time and the place.
Well, because the form carries the truth through time and space.
Yeah. All right. Let's jump in.
So we're talking about the pilgrim. Now, pilgrim doesn't necessarily have to be religious. A pilgrim is somebody walking a path.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on a pilgrimage. The pilgrimage that we are on is to find our way back home, is to put ourselves together, all the dismembered parts of our body, so that the first homecoming is ourselves, our own wholeness, our own integration, and then the next integration will be that as our one human family, and then when we identify with the planet as a whole being, etc. So it's always progressive entry into greater states of wholeness. So when we talk about the pilgrim, there were rules of the road given, and there are 6 of them. And I'd like to go through them one at a time, and I'll offer what's written in the text. I'll offer some of my understanding so far, and then you and I will find out what's flowing right now. And also, as people listen to this podcast, allow new insights to come up in you, prompted by this ageless wisdom. So, rule number 1. The road is trodden in the full light of day, thrown upon the path by those who know and lead. Naught can then be hidden, and at each turn upon that road, a person must face themselves.
Oh.
And it says a man must face itself. So I'm going to, where possible, change it to a more modern language, but occasionally I'm going to revert to what's written here. And so please make allowances for that. So let's look at this sentence by sentence. The road is trodden in the full light of day. So as we are moving, as the Gayatri says, lead us from darkness to light. This is the enlightenment, is the revelation of the inner light. And when the inner light breaks free of its constraints, it illumines the path. And it's said here, the road is trodden in the full light of day, thrown upon the path by those who know and lead. So we're talking about those postgraduate humans that we referred to in other podcasts, members of the realm of soul, the 5th kingdom, the masters, both female and male, who have ascended. It simply means graduated. So they now are in a state of consciousness where they are radiating light. Therefore, they guide us by being a shining light. They show us the path. They don't tell us what to do, but they light the path so we can see. Now, sometimes we can't see because we're looking through a glass darkly, or we've got blinders on. But at least the path is lit.
Right.
Once we open our eyes.
Yeah.
So the road is trodden in the full light of day, thrown upon the path by those who know and lead. And this is an important fact in this ageless wisdom tradition because it touches on something which is very controversial, is that the teaching says You need a teacher and a guide.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the mantra of many people these past number of years has been, hey, I'll do it my way.
Yeah.
Which is the freedom to choose. And yet, if we look at these guides and teachers, not as people who are forcing us along a path, but who said, look, we've traveled this path. We've met every single challenge that you either have met or will meet. We know what it's like to overcome it. We can help you with hints. We're not going to tell you what to do, but if you want to know, ask and you shall receive. And we can give you some hints along the way, but you have to make the journey yourself. We can't walk it for you. We can walk it with you. So that really says that it's this great chain of beings, those who are more enlightened and more enlightened and more enlightened. It goes back to this nested universe of lives or of consciousness. So it means there's always somebody who's got our back. There's always somebody who's there for us. There's always somebody who understands us, who stands under us and supports us. Just as we, once our heart is open, learn to support others. Not because we're better, because we can.
Yeah. That's an important distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, naught can then be hidden, and at each turn upon the road, a man must face himself, a person must face themselves. So it says, as you walk in the light, nothing's hidden in the light. In the end, who you meet upon the road is yourself.
Yeah.
He's like, I met a stranger on the road. Well, sometimes the stranger is an aspect of yourself that you haven't recognized yet.
Yeah. It always is.
You mean the other, the stranger?
That's right.
So, rule number 2. Upon the road, the hidden stands revealed. Each sees and knows the villainy of each. And yet there is, with that great revelation, no turning back, no spurning of each other, no shakiness upon the road. The road goes forward into day.
Yeah.
So what I sense this is saying, look, as you're walking the path, it's going to get brighter and brighter. You're going to see more of yourself that is the shadow side that has to be brought into the light, because that's our gift to the world. If we are to bring light into the world, that light has to be born out of the darkness of our incompleteness, the darkness of our wounds, the darkness. It's the healing, the healing light. So it says, upon the road, the hidden stands revealed. You can't get away with anything.
Yeah.
Because in the end, there's nothing to get away with.
Right. You're just hiding from yourself, and you can't do that. That's the beauty. I love these first two. It really is about knowing thyself. The revealing of oneself.
Right. You can run, but you can't hide.
That's
it's
right.
like, nobody will find out who I am.
Yeah.
Well, no. When you walk the path, everybody knows who you are, including yourself. You have to know who you are in order to stand in your own sovereignty. So each sees and knows the villainy of each. That means we see the patterns that are still unredeemed in each other. But the thing is, not to get turned off and discard or diss the other person. In that great revelation, no turning back, no spurning of each other. But realize that that person is battling and struggling with a pattern. I'm battling and struggling with a pattern. So let's not get down on that person, because at the moment, this pattern has got the upper hand.
Yeah. I really like that passage, we're seeing the villainy in each other, because we're in a modern context, people are putting their lives online, and you're seeing people in all their failings and all their desires and all the sort of, cringiness of modern social media. It's very interesting. And the key is to not judge and to accept and to understand and to approach even ideas that you disagree with compassion.
So it says, no spurning of each other, which is compassion, which is inclusiveness. No shakiness upon the road, which is steadfastness, sure-footedness. Don't stumble. Don't fall off the wagon.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
The road goes forward into day.
Mm.
So the more we travel the road, the brighter it's going to get.
Right. The more and more is revealed.
The more,
Yeah.
because we are in the age of revelation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a parting of the clouds and somebody's going to show us the answer of life. The revelation is the light that is generated inside of us, and inside of us as a human family, reveals to us the light that always is and has been. And the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not, it says in the Bible.
Yeah.
We couldn't see it because the light was too bright.
Yeah.
And in fact, when you talk about Shambhala, the center where the will of God is known, the color of Shambhala is black.
Mm-hmm.
It's the unborn light. Or it is in its own right, pure light. But for us, it's still black because it hasn't been revealed.
Yeah.
And as we said before, matter is called occultly black light, which means inside every atom of matter, every atom of our being is light waiting to be revealed, which is what the pilgrimage is about.
Yeah.
This is why they say the road goes forward into day. Okay. Let's take a breath. It's like, there's a lot in
I
these.
love that. Yeah.
So here's rule number 3. Upon that road, one wanders not alone. There is no rush, no hurry, and yet there is no time to lose. Each pilgrim, knowing this, presses his footsteps forward and finds himself surrounded by his fellow men. Some move ahead, he follows after. Some move behind, he sets the pace. He travels not alone. So we can go through this sentence by sentence, but upon that road one wanders not alone. We're in this together, basically. That's what we say. Hey, we're in this together, which is true, because if we are the fractals of this one life, if we are the dismembered parts remembering ourselves, then, as we said before, am I my brother's sister or keeper? No. I am my brother. I am my sister. It's the reunification. It's a journey of reunification. So upon that road one wanders not alone. There is no rush, no hurry, and yet there is no time to lose. Now that reminds me of a phrase that many people know, which is make haste slowly.
Yeah.
The Latin, festina lente. Make haste slowly. And it's an oxymoron. It's like, what do you mean, make haste slowly? One way of understanding this is to have a look at the symbol that has been used for centuries to denote this particular phrase of make haste slowly. It's an anchor with a dolphin, which is, dolphin is speed and fluidity. The anchor is rootedness and steadfastness and holding in place. So it's the synthesis of these two poles of fleetness, fluidity, speed, steadfastness, anchoredness, holding, steady. And when we have those held at the same time, there is no rush, and yet there's no time to lose.
Right.
But we're not dictated by Chronos time. We're not dictated by TikTok time. We are part of the flow of life. So we're asked to be steadfast and anchored in the real,
right,
and flow with it. So making haste slowly, no, it is an oxymoron, but once you unpack that and begin to live it, you go, oh, right, I get it.
Yeah, it does. It makes sense, especially in the light of the spiritual path. I mean, you're never gonna read all the esoteric texts, but you're only gonna read the ones that you start reading.
And I have to trust the search engine that is my soul.
Yeah.
And it says, when I say, oh, I'd like to know this, and suddenly a book shows up, or I have a conversation with somebody. So it's like this big response from the universe. Oh, so you want to know that? Okay, let me show you.
That has 100% been my experience. There's always that saying, and when the student's ready, the master appears. And as I've been going through my life, I've had mentor after mentor that showed up at just the right time, and it's something that's pretty magical to look at in reverse.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems improbable and unlikely, but yet it's exactly how it happened.
So make haste slowly. Then the next sentence, each pilgrim, knowing this, presses his footsteps forward and finds himself surrounded by his fellow men. Some move ahead, he follows after. Some move behind, he sets the pace. He travels not alone. This goes back to what we were talking about, those who have, in time and space, unfolded more of the inner power and wisdom. And therefore, they're our guides, and then we provide a guiding hand to others. We don't tell anybody what to do, ever. We're there as a guide, and a guide responds to requests.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't ask, you don't get. And that's what happens. We flail around until we just say, help.
Yeah.
That's the first basic prayer, Joey. Help.
Right. You have to vocalize it. You have to ask before you can receive.
Yeah. So we're halfway through this list.
Yeah. This is great. I love this stuff. So
Okay. Number 4. 3 things the pilgrim must avoid.
Okay.
The wearing of a hood, a veil which hides his face from others. The carrying of a water pot which only holds enough for his own wants, and the shouldering of a staff without a crook to hold. We'll go back and unpack this.
Mm-hmm.
So this was interesting, the wearing of a hood. I remember whenever it was, a number of years ago, when everyone was hoodies.
Yeah.
Everyone's wearing hood. I went, oh, this is interesting, because I remembered this phrase.
Right.
Oh, everyone's covering up. Everyone's hiding. Everyone's doing a hood, wearing their hoodies.
It is interesting because it does relate a little bit,
Yeah. So what are we hiding from or hiding away from? But the wearing of a hood, that means we can't hide the truth of who we are. That's why when people greeted each other, people would have a handshake, or they'd have an embrace, or they'd hold up their hands to each other and their palms would face each other, a certain greeting. I know indigenous people would. But that's so you can read the energy coming out of that other person.
Mm-hmm.
That's their imprint.
Yeah.
And so that if it was a good person, you get a good vibe off of them.
Yeah.
Because you can't fake or Photoshop an aura.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
Now, there can be some slippery customers that put on a good show, but in the end,
yeah, all will be revealed.
Revealed. So the wearing of a hood, a veil which hides his face from others. So it really means we have to walk in the clear light of day with the light shining on our face so we can be seen.
Yeah.
Nothing to hide. The carrying of a water pot which only holds enough for his own wants. This goes back to when I'm okay. I've got what I need.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you're okay. No, I'm going on a journey. Well, why don't I take this size, because I'm sure there'll be somebody else who needs it.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't have to be we struggle with a huge water pot carrying, but it means our heart now is larger and can dispense more love, more compassion, more support.
Yeah. I mean, that's super applicable to our daily lives. I mean, where there is such a focus on everyone getting their own thing, getting their own things and their own safety and security. And you think, yeah, I mean, just make sure you can share.
Well, yeah, because if we're going to have a holy communion, a communion is a ritual of sharing.
Yeah.
In a community. Yeah. So that's pretty clear. And then the shouldering of a staff without a crook to hold. Now that one may not be as self-evident.
Yeah,
So often, a lot of people have walking sticks now. This is the big thing,
Yeah.
walking with sticks. A staff. And here they're saying, no, not a staff, a shepherd's crook.
Mm-hmm.
A staff with this crook on the top.
Mm-hmm.
Why? What does that mean? It means you can then rescue the sheep who've fallen down into the ravine.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay? So you're not just using it to help you walk on the path, you're using it to rescue and save.
Mm-hmm.
Now this one, I'd like to double click on this and go into the esoteric meaning of this.
Yeah, because this seems like this is a big one right here.
It is. So, okay, Joey, imagine yourself standing upright.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine your spine. It's like a staff, it goes up. And then imagine the contour of your head as it wraps around, comes over the top of your crown and down to your third eye.
Mm-hmm.
What's that shape?
Shepherd's crook, right?
And that's what the shepherd's crook represents. It's a symbol for that rainbow bridge, or that connection of all the chakras that ends up with the opening of the third eye. When thine eye be single, thy body shall be full of light. Therefore you can cast light upon the way for others. What is a savior? A light bearer, a light bringer. So a savior is not just a rescuer, but the crook represents two things: the ability to help others out of their stuckness, out of the ditch once they ask for help.
Mm.
And the other is it's a symbol of the circuit that's been completed, where you now can see clearly, where your eye is single, and where you are your own source of light upon the path and for others. Guess what it says on rule number 1. The road is trodden in the full light of day, thrown upon the path by those who know and lead, those who have the light, those who carry the crook, the shepherd's crook.
Yeah.
I mean, I pondered on it. This is sort of my interpretation of it, but it sort of made sense when I understood that is symbolically how you represent that energy flow from the base of the spine around the head, touching the crown, and then back into the third eye, because it touches all the other chakras. As it goes up the spine, it touches the throat, and then it goes up into the head centers, and it comes over into the brow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the fact that Jesus was pictured walking with a shepherd's crook symbolically represents Jesus as Savior.
Right.
And we talk about my Savior, and but in the true esoteric understanding of a Savior, it's somebody who can save by calling forth the light in others and rescuing. Not rescuing by removing the lessons we need to learn for the inner light to be developed inside ourselves. So I wanted to sort of double click on that, because you can give different levels of interpretation.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's for pulling up sheep but then you realize what the deeper one is. In order to hold the crook, you have to have completed the circuitry.
Mm-hmm.
And become a light unto the world. And it's said that humanity is destined to be the light of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the Bible it says, I'm the light of the world. This simply means I've reached a point where I'm radiating. Mm-hmm. I'm causal. I'm luminous. I'm not absorbing the light from others.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I love that.
So 2 more to go.
All right, let's go. Let's get them.
Each pilgrim on the road must carry with him what he needs: a pot of fire to warm his fellow men, a lamp to cast its rays upon his heart and show his fellow men the nature of his hidden life, a purse of gold which he scatters not upon the road but shares with others, a sealed vase or vase wherein he carries all his aspiration to cast before the feet of him who waits to greet him at the gate. A sealed vase, a sealed vase. So there's a lot tied up in this.
Yeah. A lot of symbology in this one.
Yeah, and some of it is sort of self-evident, and then others you've got to go, oh, right, yeah, you unpeel it, unpack it. So each pilgrim on the road must carry with him what he needs. We've got to be self-sufficient. I can't be codependent.
Yeah.
We can be interdependent and support each other, but I can't say, oh, I need your help, and okay, but your help should help me help myself.
Yeah.
Rather than, I always need your help. No, that's codependency.
Right. Yeah.
Or at least dependency.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. You'd have to be able to stand alone and walk the path upright of your own volition, and
you stand alone so that you can be a point of giving to others.
Yeah.
Not just taking, even though we still have needs, but we are not needy. But we recognize what we still need to receive, and we get what we need to receive by giving. So a pot of fire to warm his fellow man, that's a loving heart.
Yeah.
A welcoming spirit.
Yeah.
A lamp to cast its rays upon his heart and show his fellow man the nature of his hidden life. Once again, that light is the light of truth that radiates from us, from our inner being. Also a purse of gold, which he scatters not upon the road. That means you don't just go, oh, hey, I think I'm going to go and spend it all on this. And you don't go into the local convenience store.
Yeah. You don't go into the pub and buy everyone around.
Exactly. That is not what is needed.
Yeah.
So it's, you don't stop at the roadhouses along the path.
But I guess it would be like, if there was someone that was destitute and you buy them a meal, but you don't.
Yes,
it's like,
exactly. That's what it says. A purse of gold, which he scatters not upon the road, but shares with others. And then this one, a sealed vase, and I'm still working on this one, wherein he carries all his aspiration to cast before the feet of him who waits to greet him at the gate. Who is it waiting to greet us at the gate? It's the self-revealed, self-illumined aspect of the one life, of which we are a part. We're growing into that. So we meet the being that represents what we will grow into, because it's already an embodied state. We can't be guided unless that light is embodied by somebody.
Right.
So it means that somebody has to be more aware, more developed than us, which doesn't mean we're less as a person. It simply means in time and space, thank God there are people that know more than me or wiser than me, and if I ask for help, they are spiritual first responders that can support.
Yeah.
So what I carry with me of my aspiration and the sealed vase or the sealed vase is really, I don't know, this is like, not quite the Ark of the Covenant, but it's my own inner sealed, this is the sacred, this is what I'm carrying. It's my aspirations, it's my whole devotional side. And by devotion, I mean the call to respond to life. I'm devoted to life. Therefore, my life is one of devotion. That means I'm following the call of life. So devotion isn't like subservience to somebody else.
Yeah.
It means I am now responsive to the call of life.
Right.
So a lot of these words have to be sort of redeemed.
Yeah. I really like and appreciate us going through this, because I know for myself when I read these books, sometimes there is this constant going over process where you have to take the language, take the phrase, and then retranslate the words or update the words or try to find these connections. Because when it was written, it was very obvious, I think, to the language of the time. Even though it wasn't that long ago, the language has, just evolved and gone a different direction.
Well, also, it was written in a certain way. There are levels of meaning hidden in every sentence.
Right.
And that's why it's said, like you and I have talked about this, you go back and read some of the spiritual teachings, whether it's an Alice Bailey book. I often go back and read a book I haven't read for 5 years, and I read the paragraph. I said, I didn't know that was in there. I've never seen that paragraph before, but I thought I'd read the book.
Right.
Or, oh, now I understand what it means. Now, hopefully next time around I go, oh, there's another dimension to this.
Yeah.
So these are layered, and we have to pierce the layers. That's what revelation is. It's the unveiling of truth.
Yeah.
Layer by layer.
Yeah.
So the last one, rule number 6, the pilgrim, as he walks upon the road, must have the open ear, the giving hand, the silent tongue, the chastened heart, the golden voice, the rapid foot, and the open eye which sees the light. He knows he travels not alone. So this one wraps it up here. So the pilgrim, as he walks upon the road, must have the open ear. For me, that's vigilance and mindfulness and just all-embracing awareness. I know what's going on around me. I have the open ear, and it's not distorted. I don't have my own biases inside my hearing. So I hear what I want to hear. I have an open ear. As it says in Agni Yoga, see with the eyes of the heart, hear with the ears of the heart. So for me, the open ear is the ear of the heart. The giving hand, that means we're here to give. And as we give, we receive. We've touched on this in several podcasts, is that when you clench your fist, you're in a position where you can neither receive or give. You've just taken yourself out of the game.
Yeah.
And you're stuck. When I give with an open hand, my hand is open to receive. And when I receive, I have something more to give. To those that give, more shall be given, so that they may give again, is a phrase in the esoteric teaching. So the more we give, the more we receive, so we can give again.
Yeah, that's right.
It's basically saying, this is how you grow your capacity to be a force for good on the planet.
That's right.
Which is the whole point of walking this path, this pilgrimage, is to be the love that we aspire to. And at the end of the journey, that light and that great being that meets us is the embodiment of love and the embodiment of light. And we realize that's us. And it will take a few more incarnations in terms of the spiral to actualize it, although in potential and promise, it lives inside us. So the silent tongue, you know the famous phrase, those that know don't say, those that say don't know. The silent tongue doesn't mean you mustn't speak. It just means that the silent tongue allows the heart to hear clearly. And when we speak from the silence of the heart. And therefore we speak the truth.
Yeah.
Because there's no noise. And it's like, that's how I do it.
Yeah.
And then the next one, the chastened heart, that means the purified heart. It means when we have a pure heart, we've talked about the only insurance policy you can have during any incarnation is purity of intent and purity of heart.
Yeah.
And then whatever happens to you as a result of what you do, you're covered.
Right.
It doesn't mean you'll be free from any harm because
it's still going to happen, but
because you learn your lessons through bumping into things. This is the school of hard knocks. Right. This is an obstacle course.
That does get lost sometimes. I think you think it's going to be all wine and roses, but
right.
Yeah.
So the chastened heart, the golden voice. This is interesting because they say that silence is golden, speech is silver. Now here you go back to what was just hinted at before, the silent tongue. For me, the golden voice is the utterance of the silent tongue. Out of the silence comes the word. That's gold. Speech by itself is silver.
Right.
Silence is gold, but silence revealed through the golden voice. And then the rapid foot. goes back to images of Mercury,
Yeah.
fleet-footed,
Yeah.
and goes back to make hay slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Be fleet-footed, but rooted in place in the deep knowing of life. So you're not running away, you're moving through life in a place of being anchored in something, which is truth. The open eye which sees the light. So we go back to the open eye which sees the light. It's not just a physical eye where you see everything. It goes back to when thine eye be single, thy body shall be full of light. The open eye not only sees the light, but transmits the light. And your body then becomes lighted. That's how you release the light inside of matter. So this whole pilgrimage is one from darkness to light.
Yeah.
And from ignorance and fear into knowing, from death to immortality. These are the words of an ancient, of prayer.
Mm-hmm.
So those were the 6 rules of the road, Joey.
Yeah.
Why don't we just take a breather and say, well, what? Because I'd like to do a couple of other things as well, but we could even just stop the podcast there. I don't know, or we can do one more. There are actually 2 other parts to this.
Yeah, let's do those.
To the pilgrimage. But do you have any thoughts about what we've just gone through, these 6 rules?
Well, when I think about when you first said about the difference between the ageless wisdom and ancient wisdom, I'm always looking at how do we relate this stuff to our current incarnation. And so, man, this is great stuff. It's like these rules for the road. I mean, if you start to embody these and your life is going to change dramatically.
Well, that's why they're ageless, they're timeless.
Yeah.
That's why people say, oh, yeah, but that was written for 5,000 years. Things have changed.
Yeah.
No, the outer circumstances have changed. The inner reality is still the same.
Yeah, that's a good point, because the way that humans relate to each other, the way that we think and feel really hasn't changed that much. I mean,
well, the soul is still trying to incarnate and fully show up on earth through its agent called the personality, and that takes many incarnations, many seasons of growth. So that's the journey we're on. We're on a journey home, but the home is when we come home to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the 6 rules of the road. There are 2 other parts to this. The guidelines for pilgrims.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is called, it's a general sort of heading, the cup of karma. And just as a refresher, we've often said that karma is not a punishment. Karma is this process of grace that allows us to learn real time what it means to be spirit in action in time and space and substance. So this is what it says about karma. I'll read it, and then, like before, we can go through it. And once again, this is not definitive. What I'm sharing is what I currently understand.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're sharing is what you currently understand. Mm-hmm. And so this isn't like, this is it. Now, this is part of the unfolding of the mystery as we walk the path. The cup of karma. Until the cup has once been used, filled, drained, and seen as naught, it cannot safely hold within that which is later given. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Until the cup has been used, it means you've got to use it. Now, how do you use a cup? A cup's for 2 things. You fill it with something, and you dispense what's inside it.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually have to fill it and then drain it to have gone through a cycle of use.
Yeah.
And once you've done that, you've understood, the cup of karma. This is what was given me. I've drained it. I've received it. I've redeemed it. Now I'm ready to receive more. You can't receive more until you empty your cup.
Yeah. That's a very good point. People struggle with this one. Like, you have to, you could say you have to close one door to open another. That's another way of looking at it.
Yep.
But you have to clear a space if you want something new to come into your life. And that's something that's very difficult for most people to wrap their heads around, Because it's kind of it's a shot in the dark. It's a leap of faith.
Well,
you know?
it's antithetical
Yeah.
to the whole concept of hoarding.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But it really does work. I mean, I've in my own life, I've experienced this over and over again.
Yeah.
You know, when you're stuck, the best thing to do is start pruning.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, the rules for pruning roses. First of all, you cut out all the dead stuff. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Then you cut out all the weak and crossing stems.
Right.
And then you prune back to about the third or fifth bud,
Yep.
the remaining.
Yeah. Which if you don't know anything about plants and pruning, it seems crazy, because when you watch someone do it, you're like, why are you destroying your rose bush, or what are you doing? And then you don't realize the next season around is going to be beautiful.
We do not grow alone.
Yeah.
So until the cup has once been used, filled and drained and seen as naught, it cannot safely hold within that which is later given. So what's later given is what is eventually going to fill that which we call the Holy Grail. It's our own spirit.
Yeah.
We can't receive the spirit until we've purified ourselves through draining the cup of karma. Because then not that we've passed through the test. This is not like Super Mario where you're going to save the princess at some point. Well, although it is.
Yeah.
You're saving yourself. You're redeeming yourself. You're unlocking yourself. The self that's been locked up in ignorance and darkness.
Yeah.
So cannot safely hold within that which is later given. So it's always preparing ourselves to receive something. And you can only receive something if you're worthy of receiving it. Worthy doesn't mean you're the favorite child or worthy means that you have a vessel that can actually receive what is being given. It's clean enough. It's a higher frequency.
Yeah. In this case, you've done the work. You know, you can receive the next lesson.
Okay. So once you've drained your cup, but when to utter emptiness the pilgrim drains the cup, then to the world in torment now he turns. With cup in hand, drained once, filled again, and refused to selfish need, he tends the need of struggling men who tread the way with him. I'm going to go through this. It's a long one, then we'll go back. The draught of love, of sacred fire, of cool, health-giving stream, he lifts not towards himself, but holds it forth to others. Upon the road of weary man, he becomes a lord of power. Power gained through work accomplished, power reached through conscious will. Through the cup of karma drained, he gains the right to serve. So the reward is, hey, you get to help more.
Right.
Like you say, initiation is a greater capacity to carry out the will of life, the will of God.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean, hey, you can take it easy now, rest on your laurels.
That's right.
It said, hey, welcome to the club. Now so
get back to work.
So this is a big one, but when to utter emptiness the pilgrim drains the cup, then to the world in torment now he turns. So once you've taken care of yourself to a certain degree, you can actually help others. If I haven't redeemed myself to a certain degree, then I'm not in a position to help others. I can contaminate them.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Right. Wait, and you see that all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, let me help you.
Yeah.
But then it says, with cup in hand, drain once, filled again, and refuse to selfish need. That means I'm not going to fill up the cup with just what I need. I'm filling up the cup with the gift of life so I can offer it to others. And what is the gift of life? It's love.
Yeah.
But you can't pour love into the chalice until the chalice has been refined. It'll burn a hole through it. The fire of love has to have a fireplace, has to have a chalice that's been tempered, that's been refined. He tends the needs of struggling men. Apologize once again for the pronouns, but it's going to be too much of a mental effort to change everything as I read. He tends the needs of struggling men who tread the way with him. The draught of love. By draught, we don't mean a wind blowing through a door. We mean a draught. It means a draught of ale, a pitcher full of something. A draught of love, of sacred fire, of cool, health-giving stream. He lifts not towards himself, but holds it forth to others. So this is where you become the savior. You become that guide and that supplier of need to others once they are ready to receive it. Mm. You don't give it before time, because in the Bible it talks about casting pearls before swine. Mm. A good friend of mine just redid that phrase and said it's casting pearls before time, right, before that person is mature enough to receive it. Mm-hmm.
And I think you can see that if in your own life, when you're trying to give advice to somebody and they're not ready to hear what you have to meet them where they're at and guide them along gently and compassionately.
And then this last part sounds a little like grandiose and like comic book hero. Upon the road of weary man, he becomes a lord of power. Yeah. Power gained through work accomplished. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've done the work. Therefore, with responsibility comes power. With power comes responsibility.
Yeah.
Power reached through conscious will. That is, I intend to walk this path. I intend to be of service. I choose. I will.
Right.
It's not a coercive force. It's a choice that unleashes the power inside us to be of service. I choose to serve. It isn't just right, okay, sign me up. It means I call upon the power within me that can be of service to others. So this is deep stuff. I mean, what we're covering today is lifetimes of work, Joey.
That's right.
And then through the cup of karma drained, he gains the right to serve.
I particularly love the way that one ends.
It's a sort of little twist. You go, the right to, go off and enjoy a big party.
No, right.
The right to serve.
Yeah.
And then it ends this particular section. Look on, O pilgrim, to the goal. See shining far ahead the glory that envelops and the light that naught can dim. Seize on the cup and swiftly drain. Delay not for the pain. The empty cup, the steady hand, the firm and strong endeavor lead to a moment's agony and thence to radiant life. I don't know if I want to unpack that. I'm just going to read it again and let it just do whatever it needs to do inside of each of us.
Right.
Because some things it doesn't help to try and interpret them. You let it be revealed as it reverberates. Look on, O pilgrim, to the goal. See shining far ahead the glory that envelops and the light that naught can dim. Seize on the cup and swiftly drain. Delay not for the pain. The empty cup, the steady hand, the firm and strong endeavor lead to a moment's agony and thence to radiant life.
Yeah. Wow.
My sense is that there's one more part to this pilgrim. I was going to do something around the esoteric catechism. My sense is we probably wait until another time because there's only so much we can digest in one sitting.
Because I would like to dive a little deeper into that, and then just short.
Yeah. This other one will take us time because I want to wrap this up. Mm-hmm. The third part of Guidelines for Pilgrims is called the listening pilgrim. He who is silent, quiet, and calm within, who sees all by means of light divine and is not led by light reflected within the threefold spheres, that's earthly life, is he who will shortly hear. From out the environing environing ether will strike a note upon his ear, unlike the tones that sound within the world terrestrial. Listen, O pilgrim, for when that sound strikes in colorful vibration upon the inner sense, know that a point has been achieved, marking a great transition. Watch then, O pilgrim, for the coming of that hour. With purified endeavor, mount nearer to that sound. Know when its tone steals through the misty dawn, or in the mellow sunlight strikes soft upon the ear, that soon the inner hearing will become expanded feeling and will give place to sight and perfect comprehension. Know when the music of the spheres comes to you, note by note, in misty dawn or sunny noon, at cool of eve or sounding through the deep of night, that in their rhythmic tone lies secret revelation. I'm going to read that again so we can, but without trying to interpret it.
Right.
Because once again, I think these things carry their own power. They're formulas.
Mm.
And these formulas, once we place them inside our heart, they reveal what's contained inside them. So this is like, okay, I've given you the rules of the road. I've told you about the cup of karma. Here are the final instructions. Listen. So it's called the listening pilgrim. So let's complete this podcast by just reading this, and then just, if there's any final things that you want to say on musings, or we just maybe wait for some silent time and let it digest together with the people listening to this podcast.
Yeah, I like that.
The listening pilgrim. He who is silent, quiet and calm within, who sees all by means of light divine, and is not led by light reflected within the threefold spheres, is he who will shortly hear. From out the environing ether will strike a note upon his ear, unlike the tones that sound within the world terrestrial. Listen, O pilgrim, for when that sound strikes in colorful vibration upon the inner sense, know that a point has been achieved, marking a great transition. Watch then, O pilgrim, for the coming of that hour. With purified endeavor, mount nearer to that sound. Know when its tone steals through the misty dawn, or in the mellow sunlight strikes soft upon the ear, that soon the inner hearing will become expanded feeling and will give place to sight and perfect comprehension. Know when the music of the spheres comes to you, note by note, in misty dawn or sunny noon, at cool of eve or sounding through the deep of night, that in their rhythmic tone lies secret revelation. Those are the instructions for us pilgrims.
The rules of the road.
The timeless guidelines.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. That was beautiful.
Thank you, Joey. As Ram Dass says, we are walking each other home.
Yeah, I love it. All right.
Thank you, Joey.
Thanks.